Hello and welcome to Kalam's Answer Writing. I hope you all are doing well. We're already into the mid of this particular week of history, and I introduced a question yesterday, and that is the question we're going to discuss today. It was basically a question on personalities, Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar. Now this is a fairly direct question in a manner of speaking because everybody can expect a question on Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar, but sometimes there are several other personalities which can also be asked in the examination. Some time ago there was a question on Kamala Devi, and there was also a question on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and so on. It is not really easy to predict those topics, and don't worry too much about it. Jitna pata hai usko use karke you are supposed to write an answer. But in relation to these questions where there is a question on Mahatma Gandhi or B.R. Ambedkar, you definitely have to thoroughly write a good answer, because a lot of people will have a good number of points in relation to this particular topic of Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar, right? So I'll read out the question for you all, and then I'll introduce and set up a body and then a conclusion. We'll set up that particular system and then move forward and evaluate the sample answer. But look at this particular question. Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar, despite having divergent strategies, divergent approaches, had a common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. You have to elucidate this. This of course comes under GS1, freedom struggle and so on. Okay, so there are two things that I can definitely see in this particular answer. Let me just minimize this for you all. The first thing is I have to first establish that they differed in terms of their approaches and thought processes. And the second thing I'm going to show to you as in to the examiner, that they had the common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. So these are the two things that I'm going to show, and I'll talk about the introduction and conclusion in a bit. So these people, Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar, they were a totally divergent set of personalities, and they had different perspectives as such. Like for example, Mahatma Gandhi on one hand was in support of caste system. Okay, if we want to create some amount of contrast between these people, there is Gandhi on one side and this is Ambedkar. So you could talk about caste system, and then you could talk about what else? You could talk about separate electorates, because Gandhi was not in support of separate electorates and Ambedkar was in support of separate electorates. Like this, moving forward, you could talk about a lot of things, and in relation to religion they had different perspectives and so on. Anyway, these are completely different set of personalities, and both of them have played a very important role in the freedom struggle on one hand and also in post-independent India. Of course, Gandhi did not have a good amount of time to spend with the Indians after the independence, because he died an unfortunate death due to assassination. But then Ambedkar did spend his time. He has drafted the constitution, and that constitution is what we worship today. That constitution is the legal document which we study today for our exam, which is a separate thing. But that is a very egalitarian document. If you look at the constitution, there are several good things which want to provide support to a lot of people, not just a particular section of the society, be it the rich people or this particular class of people and so on. The constitution tries to support all the people in the country. Essentially, it wants to provide dignity to everybody in the country, and this is what was ensured by Mr. Ambedkar. So despite these differences, these people had the common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. Gandhi on the one hand also tried to work his bit for the Harijans. In fact, he gave the name Harijan, and then he wanted to work for the upliftment of the scheduled castes and so on. Ambedkar of course wanted to focus totally on scheduled castes and for their upliftment, because Ambedkar himself has faced a lot of trouble. This great man was not even allowed to sit in the school along with the other students because of the caste discrimination. And despite all the discrimination he faced, he has gone through a lot of hardships, but then he has come out with flying colors. He became the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution. He has done his studies from a prestigious universities, and he has lived his life in order to be spoken about by a lot of people, including us today. We're talking about him because he has spent his hours, every waking hours, in order to make a life out of himself. So now let's look at the question. So firstly, we have to first establish how they are different people with divergent approaches, and on the other hand, you have to talk about the common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. So how do you introduce the question? You could introduce the question by talking about the differences in Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar. You could talk about the national movement as such, because these two people can be encompassed under the single canvas of the national movement and freedom struggle, right? So that's the introduction, body, and the conclusion format. You could introduce by talking about the context of the freedom struggle, and then you can talk about the divergence. A lot of divergence is there, one in relation to caste, in relation to electorate, separate electorates. In fact, the Pune Pact is all about this particular separate electorates. Gandhi going to what is called as satyagraha and fast unto that, and then we had the Pune Pact, under which joint electorates were given to scheduled caste. About 140 seats were given to them. But anyway, all that set aside, these were basically contrasts and differences in approaches between these two people, and then they had a common goal as well. They were trying to uplift the downtrodden. And then you can immediately move forward, finish off your answer with a conclusion with 1 or 2 lines, and then move off to your next answer. But you have to keep something in mind. This is something I have stressed a lot even in the first season of Kalam Program. You definitely have to talk about conclusion, be it for 1 line or even half a line. Okay, so whatever it is, you definitely have to talk about a conclusion, because it tells the examiner that there is closure to your answer. I want you to keep that in mind. So write very small conclusions, it is fine. If you have enough time, think about nice conclusions and write them down. And if you practice enough before your examination, probably if you write about 100 questions per each paper, per GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4, you will have a set of ready-made conclusions and introductions. I want you to keep that in mind. So those things will come really handy. Even if you practice Kalam 1 answer per day, even if you set up 1 conclusion, 1 good conclusion, 1 introduction per day, and if you have the collection of all these things under a single book or a single set of pages or papers, all these things, if you revise and go to the examination, it definitely provides you with an edge. So now let's move forward and look at the answer. So here is the sample answer. Let me just zoom it for y'all. So Gandhi and Ambedkar played a crucial role in the freedom struggle. I'll change the color of the pen. So while Gandhi emancipated India as a whole, Ambedkar kept its unity in the writings of our constitution. So here he is basically trying to say that both of them have played a very good role in the notion of India that we have today. On one hand, Gandhi tried to create independence for the country. On the other hand, this unity was maintained because of the perfect constitution that was created by Ambedkar. So you cannot take sides between these two great personalities. Of course, if this is a question between Gandhi and Godse, obviously you have to take a side in favor of Gandhi, right? For the examination purpose, even if you feel otherwise. So let's move forward. He's talking about the divergent approaches and beliefs of these two peoples. Firstly, Gandhi believed in unity of all classes as a single political force. So he's trying to hint us to the fact that Gandhi did not believe in separate electorates. Ambedkar supported or gave extra support for Dalits because of the history of discrimination. Ambedkar himself was a Dalit and he has faced a lot of discrimination, like I just pointed out in the previous slide. So what I'm trying to tell is there is a divergence in approach. Ambedkar supported separate electorates, whereas Gandhi was refuting separate electorates. In fact, in this context, we had the Pune Pact. Right, the year of the Pune Pact. Write this down in your comment section and note it in your mind mentally. It is important for prelims. So Gandhi supported the caste system by highlighting its positivities, and Ambedkar called for dismantling of caste. And this is really important. The caste system as such was supported by Gandhi, and this is a fact. But the intention behind supporting caste is something that we have to understand. Gandhi never supported caste discrimination. He never supported caste discrimination, but he understood the utility of the caste system. So what he meant was, whenever there is a particular caste, a caste is something that is unified around a particular occupation, right? And when you pass this occupation from one generation to another and you keep doing it through a set of generation, by the time you move to the 10th generation, they work so efficiently that no one else will be able to work as efficiently as these people can. So from an economic perspective, this is a really important scenario that Gandhi was envisaging. He wanted to create a situation in which there was perfection. And having this kind of economic security, the person can pursue his religious activities, his spiritual activity is what Gandhi had in his mind. So this is why he supported the caste system, and he felt that there were some positive elements in this particular system. Ambedkar, of course, was against caste system as such. In fact, he said caste system has to be dismantled. And in his book, he has written out certain strategies in order to dismantle the situation of caste. He wanted to go for intermarriages, intercaste marriages, interstate marriages, interreligion marriages, and so on. He wanted to mix and match between people in order to create a society where everybody was equal. Right? Ambedkar in fact wanted this. He wanted the dismantling of caste. Moving forward, Gandhi believed in the strength of villages to rejuvenate India. Gandhi always felt that the power is with the masses and the masses are in the villages, and these villages were having the largest capacity in order to boost India's economic growth, India's political growth, and India's spiritual growth. In fact, Gandhi has said that these village communities have to develop into self-sustaining entities. They need to be given some amount of self-governance, not some amount, a good amount of self-governance, right? Village panchayats and so on. But of course, Ambedkar did not support it. Ambedkar did not support it clearly because he felt, and this is also true, that in those days the village areas or the people in the villages were not so forward. They did practice caste discrimination. Why talk about those areas, those days? Even if you want to go to several remote corners of the country today, even today, you still face some amount, you still witness some amount of discrimination that is happening between castes. And we read newspaper articles regarding them. We cannot just shove it aside saying that India has become a perfect society. We still have that problem. So Ambedkar saying that villages were not ready was in fact absolutely true. In fact, Ambedkar went forward to call villages as dens of ignorance. As caves of ignorance is what he has called them. But of course, you cannot use such extreme language in your answers. Dens of ignorance is something very extreme, and you can't use such overly critical terminologies in your answer. I want you to keep that in mind. So we will move forward. He basically is trying to establish so far the differences in the approaches of Gandhi and Ambedkar. So the next thing he's talking about other set of differences. There is constructive work on the side of Gandhi. He wanted to go for evolutionary approach, whereas this person Ambedkar went for revolutionary approach. Revolutionary in the not in the sense of Bhagat Singh or so on. He wanted radical reforms, and Gandhi wanted a broad-based movement. Ambedkar basically supported caste-based movements like Mr. Periyar, Ramaswamy Naikar, who led the self-respect movement and so on. So these people were basically leading the caste-based movements. They wanted to uplift their own caste because they were so disappointed with the way society was treating their community. If you look at the way in which a Dalit was treated at that point of time, you will really feel bad and looking at the exploitation, right? And in such a situation, he wanted to uplift his own caste first. Of course, Ambedkar did fight for the independence of the India, but among all those things, what was primary for him was to uplift his own caste, uplift his own Dalit community, right? So these are the basic differences between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Now we have to talk about common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. So you have to first now establish that there is a common goal. So the common goal is, of course, the concept of free India. And what kind of free India are we talking about? We are talking about a free India in which each particular individual has had their due place. In fact, this is what we call as the idea of justice. If you study ethics, What is the definition of justice? The definition of justice is to give each person their own due. Okay, treating similars similarly, treating dissimilars dissimilarly, and so on. Anyway, that concept aside, he wanted to create a just society. Both of them wanted that. And while Ambedkar was very vocal about Dalit assertion, Gandhi also looked after the concerns of the women, upper and middle classes. So it's not like Gandhi did not want to support the caste movements or did not want to support the Dalit movement and so on. In fact, he wanted to support every movement which had virtue. Every movement which wanted to uplift the downtrodden, and as such was supported by Gandhi. Who did the constructive work between non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement? Who did the constructive work between different other movements? Gandhi was the one who did it. He wanted to uplift the society. He wanted to create a situation in which all the sections of the society could exist mutually peacefully. He wanted to create that situation is what I'm trying to establish. Moving forward, both of them have founded a good number of organizations to support the downtrodden. Like for example, you have Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha, Scheduled Caste Federation. These were set up by Ambedkar, by the way. And then Gandhi has participated in temple entry movement and so on. This part could have been written better. So he has given only 3 points, is it? So 3 points alone have been given in relation to the common goal of amelioration of the downtrodden. This part could have been done better. You could have talked about the press journals that they have released, the Harijan, the Young India and Indian Opinion and so on. Some of them which have been released in order to support the downtrodden by both of them, by Mr. Ambedkar and Mr. Gandhi. Some of them could be cited in order to establish that both of them were working for a common goal. That could have been done. So though divergent in approach, they were only two sides of the same coin called equal, just and free India. This is a decent conclusion. He has finished it in 3 lines, and this is something very feasible in the examination considering the fact that you have only 7.2 minutes per question, especially the 10 markers. Okay, and also another fact that you have to keep in mind when you go to the examination, 3 or 4 minutes will also go into signing. You have to sign your name and then, not name of course, you have to sign your roll number and then you have to bubble and do all that. So there is a loss of about 4 or 5 minutes. Itna loss मान के चलो, and then there is some time you spend thinking. So there is only so much, as in there is only some amount of time, probably 6 to 6.5 minutes per answer is what is feasible. And I want you to really plan things out, to write as fast as possible, to write as much as possible with a good amount of flow, which is why we are spending so much of time in creating a good structure for our answer. So I want you to write the same question in the comment section and let's see how you do it. Talk about the introduction, talk about what you have as the subheadings of the body, and then you also talk about the conclusion. And in addition to this, if you want to start the introduction in a different way, or if you want to write the answer in a paragraph format, please feel free to do so. I am trying to tell you one approach of approaching the answers. Right? This is just one style of answer writing. Kiranmai madam had her own style. Swati madam has her own style. So we all have different styles of answer writing. Whatever suits you best is what you have to pick up. And you can also mix and match. Some answers you can write in paragraphs format, especially in polity, because that helps in building a logic. When you have a particular question, if it is asking your opinion, it is probably good to write in terms of paragraphs. But if it is asking you to elucidate or simply list, then you directly jump and write the points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. So look at the strategy which suits you best. So that should be the discussion for the day. Moving forward, tomorrow's question is the following. You have to talk about the economic policies of the British. You have to examine critically the various facets of economic policies of British in India from mid 18th century till independence. So one pitfall of this particular question is, immediately after looking at economic policies, we think of Zamindari, Mahalwari, and then you think of Royatwari. Okay, this is what we think of. But the truth is, these are just land settlement policies. The British also had a foreign economic policy. They had an economic policy of manipulating our exchange rate so that we could not export our goods outside. They manipulated it in such a way that India became a a supplier of raw material and a consumer of finished goods. And also they started consuming our money in order to wage wars in several parts of the world. So these are all the economic policies that you have to keep in mind, and not just this land tenure policy. But of course you have to focus a good amount of time, because this is the major part of the economic policy. Let's see how we'll do it, and we'll do it tomorrow. Thank you for your participation. Bye.